What if the daughter of a nation's president grew up starving on the streets, unloved and forgotten, until fate brought her face to face with a mother who abandoned her at birth? This is a heartbreaking yet miraculous story of Amara, the girl who went from rags to palace. Before we continue, if this story is touching your heart, please take a moment to hit the like button. It helps more people find this story of hope and resilience. And if you're new here, subscribe so you never miss our next emotional tale. The Adigwe household stood at the edge of Oba Town, its walls dull with cracks and its wooden doors warped by years of use. From the outside, the house gave the impression of a modest but peaceful home. Inside, however, was a furnace of tension. That evening, the aroma of pepper soup drifted through the compound. Steam curled from the large aluminum pot that sat on the stove in the kitchen. The pot, to anyone else, meant a satisfying family meal. But to Amara, the 13-year-old who stood quietly at the sink, it meant trouble. She scrubbed the last of the plates with trembling fingers, her stomach growling as the scent of meat teased her senses. For weeks, she hadn't tasted even a morsel of beef or chicken. Bread crusts, leftover rice, and occasional watery stew were all she was ever given. Who stole the meat from this pot? Mama Adigwe's voice cracked like thunder. She stood by the pot, lifting the lid with one hand and glaring into broth as if it had insulted her. Her cheeks glistened with sweat, and the wrapper tied around her waist was stained with palm oil. The twins, only 5 years old, were playing with their toy cars on the floor. At their mother's sharp tone, they froze and huddled together, wide-eyed. Amara stiffened, turning from the sink. "Ma, I didn't touch anything," she whispered. The words barely left her lips before a sharp slap burned across her cheek. She staggered, steadying herself against the sink. "You ungrateful witch." Mama Adigwe spat, her nostrils flaring. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? By stealing meat meant for my children?" Amara's throat tightened. Tears gathered in her eyes, but refused to fall. She had learned long ago that tears did not soften Mama Adigwe. Instead, they only fueled her anger. Her stomach growled loudly, betraying her hunger. She bit her lip and stared at the floor. "You think I don't see the way you look at the pot?" Mama sneered. "You were waiting for your chance to steal. Don't bother denying it." Before Amara could speak, the door creaked and Papa Adigwe entered. He was a tall, heavy man with a serious face. He tied his wrapper tighter as he stepped in, his eyes scanning the scene. "What is it again, woman?" he asked tiredly. "This girl," Mama pointed at Amara, her finger trembling with fury. "She has stolen meat from the pot." "I didn't, Papa," Amara said quickly, her voice shaking. Papa Adigwe's eyes narrowed. For years, he had tolerated her presence because his wife insisted they needed a child when they were barren. But after the twins were born, his patience grew thin. "She must go," he said firmly, his voice flat and cold. Amara's heart stopped. "Papa, please. I didn't take anything. I swear. I can wash more, fetch water, do anything." "Enough!" His voice boomed through the small kitchen. "I warned you, girl. We took you in out of pity, gave you a roof, fed you, and now you repay us with lies and theft." Amara's lips quivered. She wanted to scream that she had never been wanted, that she had been taken only so the Adigwes could look good in church, so people would say they had done a good deed. But she swallowed the words. Speaking back would only worsen her fate. "You think this is your real home?" Mama Adigwe's voice dripped with venom. "Let me remind you, you were picked up from House of Mercy Orphanage. We gave you our name. We gave you food. And now God has blessed us with our own children. You're no longer needed here." The words cut deeper than the slap. Amara felt her chest tighten. "Please, Mama. Please, Papa. Don't send me away. I have nowhere to go." But her pleas fell on deaf ears. Papa Adigwe opened the front door, the wooden hinges creaking. "Out," he commanded. Mama grabbed Amara by the arm, dragging her across the room. The twins stared silently, their little faces etched with confusion. "Carry your things, if you have any. In fact, you have nothing," Mama hissed, shoving her forward. Amara stumbled out into the compound barefoot, wearing only the faded yellow gown she had on since morning. The door slammed shut behind her. A loud click of the lock followed. Silence. She stood still for a long moment, her cheek burning, her chest rising and falling in ragged breaths. The night was cool, the gravel biting her feet. From nearby houses, faint laughter and television sounds drifted out. Neighbors peeked through curtains but quickly pulled them shut. Nobody wanted to meddle. Her body trembled. For the first time, she realized she truly had no one. No parents. No home. Not even the Adigwis, who had always reminded her she was unwanted, would keep her anymore. With heavy steps, she walked away. The streets of Obo were dimly lit, scattered with potholes and stray dogs. Okada riders zoomed past, their headlights blinding her momentarily. Amara wandered aimlessly, her stomach empty, her mind spinning. After hours of walking, she reached the market square. Most stalls were closed, the wooden shutters locked. She found a corner behind stacked crates and curled herself into a ball. The ground was cold, rough against her thin gown. The night breeze whipped at her skin. She shivered violently, wrapping her arms around herself. Her cheeks still stung from the slap. Her belly groaned. "What did I do wrong?" she whispered into the darkness. No answer came, only the distant hum of a generator and the soft barking of dogs. For the first time in her young life, Amara understood what it meant to be completely alone. By dawn, the market came alive. A woman sweeping with a rough broom spotted her. Who are you?" "Dirty girl. Get up and go. Go back to your parents," the woman barked, chasing her away. "I don't have any," Amara whispered, dragging her sore legs forward. She walked to a food stall where women were dishing steaming jollof rice into nylon bags. The smell made her head spin. "Please, Ani, I'm hungry," she pleaded softly. The woman hissed and turned her back. "God forbid I feed a street thief. Go away before I beat you." Amara's throat tightened. She collapsed near a kiosk, too weak to walk further. Her head throbbed, her lips cracked with thirst. When the kiosk owner arrived, he scowled. "Leave here. Do you want police to accuse me of hiding a criminal?" He kicked her leg lightly. She stumbled away again. By evening, she found herself near a mechanic's shed. She curled beside a rusted car, shivering like a wounded animal. A boy her age appeared, holding a torn piece of bread and half a bottle of water. He stretched it out. "Take," he said. Amara grabbed it with both hands, chewing hungrily. "Where's your family?" he asked. She looked away. "I don't know." He studied her for a moment, then shrugged. "Street life is hard. Don't die, okay?" She nodded weakly. But deep inside, she wondered if dying might be easier than surviving like this. That night, she looked up at the dark sky, her stomach still empty, her heart broken. "God, do I matter at all?" she whispered. The wind rustled through the trees, but no answer came. The presidential villa in Abuja was nothing short of a fortress. The sprawling compound stretched like a kingdom within the city, its white walls gleaming in the afternoon sun. Armed guards stood at every entrance, their eyes sharp, their uniforms pressed to perfection. To the public, the villa represented power, wealth, and stability, but within its polished marble halls, the First Lady, Chika Obinna, carried a secret that threatened to crush her heart. That morning, she sat at her vanity, her silk wrapper cascading over her shoulders. The reflection in the mirror showed a woman of elegance and dignity, yet her eyes, though lined with kohl, carried a sadness no makeup could hide. Her maid, Ngozi, brushed her hair gently. "Madam, you look beautiful today." Chika forced a small smile. "Thank you, Ngozi. Leave me for a while. I need some time alone." Once the door clicked shut, her smile vanished. She opened the drawer beneath the mirror and drew out a tiny silver bracelet. The clasp was broken, and the once bright surface was now tarnished with age. She held it delicately in her palm, as though it were made of glass. Engraved on the inside were two tiny letters, A.O. "Amara Obinna," she whispered, her voice breaking. A tear rolled down her cheek, tracing the lines of pain that years of silence had etched into her face. For 13 years, she had carried the burden. The shame of what she had done haunted her dreams. And now, with every passing day, the emptiness inside her grew unbearable. It all began before the rise of her husband, President Obinna. Back then, they were just a struggling young couple trying to build a life. Chika had given birth to a baby girl after years of barrenness. The child had been perfect, her tiny cries, her delicate fingers, her big, bright eyes. But her joy had been poisoned by pressure. Her husband's family wanted a son. Her in-laws whispered behind her back, calling her cursed for producing only a girl. Her mother-in-law had spat venom in her ears. "What kind of woman are you, who cannot give this family an heir? You're wasting my son's strength on useless daughters." Chika had cried and begged for acceptance, but the pressure mounted. When Obinna entered politics and needed every ounce of respect from his family and party, she broke under the weight of it. The night she abandoned the baby at House of Mercy Orphanage was the night her soul began to rot with guilt. Every birthday, every Christmas, every Mother's Day, she thought of that child. Did she eat? Did she smile? Did she even live? And now, with Obinna as president, the guilt had sharpened. She had every luxury, jewels, chefs, servants, private jets, but none of it could fill the hole inside her heart. That evening, Chika sat in the palace garden. A cool breeze rustled the leaves, carried with it the distant sound of Abuja's bustling traffic. Her husband, President Obinna, approached, wearing a crisp white agbada that shimmered in the light. His face was stern, but his eyes softened when he saw her. "My queen," he said, lowering himself into the chair beside her. "You look troubled." Chika hesitated, clutching the silver bracelet in her hand. "Obinna," she whispered, "there is something I must tell you. Something I should have confessed long ago." He frowned. "What is it?" Her hands trembled as she spoke. "Before we had the boys, before the campaigns and the elections, I had a child, a daughter." Obinna's brows knitted. "A daughter?" She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. I left her at the orphanage. I was weak. Your family wanted a son, and I couldn't bear the shame. I thought I was protecting you. But Obinna, I abandoned my own flesh and blood." For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. The air itself seemed to pause. Obinna's jaw tightened. "Chika, for 13 years, you carried this and never told me? I was afraid you would hate me," she sobbed. "I hated myself enough already." Obinna rose, pacing the garden with his hands behind his back. His chest rose and fell rapidly. Finally, he stopped and turned toward her. "We must find her," he said firmly. Chika looked up, her eyes wide. "You mean it?" "Yes," he said. "She is our blood. No matter where she is, we will bring her home. I will not rest until she is found." Chika collapsed into sobs of relief. Thank you, Obinna." The next morning, the presidential villa buzzed with urgency. Chief of Staff ministers, aides, and security chiefs filled the conference room. Files were spread across the table. Photographs of orphanages and adoption centers stacked high. "This is a matter of utmost secrecy," President Obinna declared. His voice was calm but laced with authority. "No media, no leaks. If word spreads, it will destroy my wife's reputation and my family's dignity. Do you understand?" "Yes, Mr. President." The officials chorused. Chika sat silently beside him, her eyes red from weeping. "Start with House of Mercy Orphanage." Obinna continued. "My daughter was left there 13 years ago. I want records. I want files. I want every child traced. Use every resource. Spare no expense." The room erupted into murmurs of acknowledgement. Secret police were dispatched. Investigative teams formed. For the first time in her life, Chika felt a flicker of hope. Days turned into weeks. Black SUVs moved quietly through the streets of Abuja and nearby towns, visiting orphanages, speaking to old caretakers, flipping through dusty files. Names of children long adopted, relocated, or deceased passed through the investigators' hands. At House of Mercy, an old matron sat with the officials. Her hands trembled as she flipped through the register. "Yes," she said softly. "There was a girl, brought to us 13 years ago. A tiny baby wrapped in a pink cloth. The woman who left her didn't speak, only cried as she placed the baby in my arms. We called her Amara. Chica, who had accompanied the team that day, gasped at the name. Her hand flew to her mouth. Yes, Amara, the matron repeated. She stayed with us until a family, the Adigwis, came to take her. After that, we lost touch. We do not know what became of her. Chica clutched the matron's hands desperately. Please, if you remember anything at all. The matron shook her head sadly. They never returned. We heard rumors that the family was unkind, but nothing was confirmed. Chica's heart broke. She leaned heavily against a chair, her tears flowing freely. Then we must find the Adigwis. Obina said firmly, and quickly. Meanwhile, Amara's life on the streets was deteriorating. Each day was a fight for survival. Some nights she found shelter in abandoned shops. Other nights she slept under bridges. Hunger gnawed at her belly. Thirst burned her throat. She begged for scraps, chased after thrown-away banana peels, drank from public taps. The once bright spark in her eyes dimmed. Yet somewhere, deep inside, a tiny ember of hope still glowed. She often prayed at night, whispering to the heavens, "If there is a God up there, please, don't let me disappear like this. Please, let me matter to someone." Unbeknownst to her, the most powerful man in the nation was moving heaven and earth to answer that very prayer. Back in the villa, Chica found herself unable to sleep. Night after night, she wandered the corridors, clutching the silver bracelet. Ngozi, her maid, noticed her distress. "Madam, God will bring her back to you." "I believe it." Chica managed a small smile. "I pray you are right, Ngozi. I pray I am not too late." Rain poured heavily that night, drumming on the corrugated iron roofs of Oba Town. The gutters overflowed, carrying away scraps of nylon leaves and dirt. Stray dogs barked as thunder split the sky. Amara huddled beneath an abandoned kiosk near the bus park, her thin yellow gown clinging to her shivering body. Her lips were blue from cold, and her stomach cramped with hunger. She pulled her knees to her chest and whispered into the storm, her voice barely audible. "God, please, let this not be the night I die." Her eyelids grew heavy. For days she had eaten almost nothing, just a handful of gari someone had thrown away. Her body was weak, and her strength drained with every passing hour. The rainwater trickled into the kiosk, soaking her hair and matting it against her forehead. Her chest rose and fell unevenly. Darkness crept in around the edges of her sight. And then, just as her world was fading, a beam of light pierced through the rain. A black SUV screeched to a halt near the park. Two men in dark suits jumped out, umbrellas in hand. They had been dispatched by President Obina himself after a fresh lead pointed them toward Oba. One of the men spotted the frail figure slumped against the kiosk. "Sir, over there." They rushed forward. When they saw her, their hearts clenched. She was barely conscious, her skin pale, her gown torn. She looked like a child who had fought battles no child should ever face. "Quick, lift her." She's still breathing. Amara felt strong arms scoop her up. She wanted to resist, to cry out in fear, but she was too weak. She surrendered to the warmth and the faint smell of cologne. As the SUV sped through the rain, she drifted into unconsciousness. At the presidential villa, the atmosphere was tense. Chica paced the length of her bedroom, clutching her rosary. Obina sat silently, his chin resting on his clasped hands. When the phone rang, Obina snatched it up. He listened intently, then looked at his wife. They found her. Chica gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Where is she alive?" "She's weak, but alive. They're bringing her here." The First Lady collapsed into tears of relief. An hour later, the convoy pulled into the villa gates. The men carried Amara into the guest wing, where doctors and nurses waited. They laid her on a soft bed, covering her frail body with blankets. Chica rushed in, her heart pounding. The moment her eyes fell on the girl, she froze. The resemblance was undeniable. The shape of her jaw, the arch of her brows, even the tiny birthmark near her left ear. It was like looking into a mirror of her younger self. Chica's knees buckled. She fell beside the bed, clutching Amara's cold hand. "My child, my baby, Mama is here." Amara stirred, her eyelids fluttering open. Her gaze was hazy, unfocused. She saw a strange, beautiful woman crying beside her, calling her my child. Confused, she tried to pull her hand away, but Chica held on tightly. "You're safe now," Chica whispered. "You will never suffer again." The doctors worked quickly, inserting 4 drips, checking her vitals. Slowly, Amara's breathing steadied. When Obinna entered the room, his tall frame filled the doorway. He moved closer, studying the girl. His chest tightened as he saw the same dimple he carried on his own cheek. "This is my daughter," he said softly, voice thick with emotion. For a long moment, silence filled the room, broken only by the hum of medical machines. The next morning, Amara awoke to the warmth of sunlight streaming through embroidered curtains. The bed beneath her was soft as a cloud, the blanket heavy and warm. She blinked in disbelief. Had she died? Was this heaven? Then her eyes adjusted, and she saw Chica sitting nearby, watching her with tender eyes. "Good morning, my love," Chica whispered. Amara frowned, confused. Why are you here?" "Who are you?" Chica's throat tightened. "I am your mother." The words hit Amara like a thunderclap. She sat up slightly, wincing at the weakness in her body. My mother?" "Yes," Chica said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I lost you 13 years ago. I made a mistake, the worst mistake of my life. But God has brought you back to me." Amara's lips trembled. "No, my parents threw me out. They said I was from an orphanage." Chica nodded, her shoulders shaking. "They lied. You are not their child. You are mine. Your real name is Amara Obinna. And this house, this family, is your true home." Amara's head spun. She wanted to reject the words, to run back to the only life she had ever known, miserable as it was. But deep inside, something clicked. The way this woman held her, the way she wept, the way her touch warmed her skin. It felt real. It felt right. "Is it true?" she whispered. Obinna stepped forward. His deep voice filled the room. "It is true. I am your father. I am sorry, my daughter. We failed you, but never again. From today, you will be cherished." He held out his hand. For a long moment, Amara stared at it. Then, with trembling fingers, she reached out and placed her hand in his. Obinna pulled her into his embrace. Chica wrapped her arms around them both, sobbing. For the first time in her life, Amara felt what it meant to belong. Weeks passed, and the transformation was nothing short of miraculous. Amara was given new clothes, soft and colorful. Her hair was treated, her body nourished with good food. Tutors came to teach her. Doctors monitored her health. Slowly, her cheeks filled out, her skin glowed, her eyes regained their light. The media, kept in the dark about her true identity, only referred to her as a girl rescued by the First Lady's Foundation. But within the palace, she was recognized for who she truly was, the first daughter of a nation. Chica never left her side. Every night, she tucked Amara into bed, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "Mama loves you." Obinna often took her on walks through the garden, teaching her about history, leadership, and faith. "You are destined for greatness, Amara," he told her. "Your suffering was not in vain. It has made you strong." One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Amara sat with her mother by the fountain. "Mama," she said softly, "why did you leave me?" Chica's eyes filled with tears. "Because I was foolish. I allowed fear and shame to blind me. I thought I was protecting your father. But instead, I destroyed myself. Forgive me, my daughter." Amara stared into her mother's trembling eyes. For a moment, pain and anger swirled within her. But then she remembered the nights she had begged God not to let her die alone. And now, here she was, alive, loved, and held. "I forgive you," she whispered. Chica broke down in tears, pulling her daughter into her arms. "Thank you, my child. Thank you." Amara smiled faintly. "God heard me, Mama. I prayed every night that someone would love me, and he sent you back." Chica kissed her forehead. "Never again will I let you go." That night, for the first time since she could remember, Amara slept without fear, without hunger, without loneliness. She was no longer the forgotten girl on the streets. She was Amara Obinna, daughter of the president, child of love restored, proof that even in the darkest of nights, the dawn will come. Amara's life is proof that no matter how dark your journey seems, there's always light ahead. Remember, more inspiring stories like this are coming your way, so make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Until next time, stay hopeful and stay blessed.